know that the name Muto wasn't actually these guys' official name? It's quite easy to forget that Muto is just a temporary monarch designation. But hey, listen, get a like on the vid, hit subscribe if you're not already, and I will explain more as I go into as much detail as I can on this creature that specifically evolved for hunting and killing Gojiras. Hi, welcome back to the Inside of My Head, where I'm going to look at some of the creatures that could appear in the new Apple Plus Godzilla series. So the rumors are swirling, and honestly, we don't know that much about the new series, but we do know that it's going to be set between Godzilla 2014 and King of the Monsters, and if that sounds familiar, it's because the graphic novel Godzilla Aftershock was also set in this time period. So is this the ground that the new series will cover, or is it going to run parallel to these events? Maybe ignoring them altogether? No, it wasn't ignored, it was covered up. Now, personally, I'm no fan of them simply retreading old ground, so I wouldn't want the series to be just a panel-to-screen adaptation of the comic, but I have always wanted to see a live-action version of the villain from that novel, the villain from that novel being Muto Prime, and in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about what could potentially be the villain in the new Godzilla series. And even if it isn't, I've wanted to make a video about this guy for a while now. Let me start by saying that I love the Mutos. The strange, squared-off shape of their heads, these huge fangs and their glowing red eyes, but most of all, that sound that they made, which I will never forget hearing for the first time in the theatre. As I said at the start of the video, according to Arvid Nelson, Muto is just a generic designation that Monarch gives to a newly discovered species. You probably know that it stands for Massive Unidentified Terrestrial Organism, so even Godzilla was first designated a Muto when they first discovered him. These are technically Titanus Jinshin Mushi, with the prime alpha of this species coined Muto Prime. But wait, in GVK they're referred to as Titanus Muto, I hear you cry, and yes, you're right, they are, but again, according to Arvid here, that was a production mistake. So let's talk about the Titanus Jinshin Mushi species as a whole for a minute. I'm going to put in a timecode down below if you want to skip direct to the part about Muto Prime, but I think it all ties in together. The Mutos are a parasitic species that has evolved to hunt and feed off of other Titan species, including Titanus Gojira, by laying their eggs inside their prey's radioactive bodies. In egg form, they leach radiation from their host before bursting out. They're bioatomic, so they feed on radiation, whether that be natural radiation from the Earth or man-made radiation, such as warheads or reactor cores, and they can harness this energy and gain strength from it. In Godzilla 2014, we first saw the male Muto, who could use this energy to unleash an EMP pulse by slamming his lower leg into the ground. Although it has been insinuated that it doesn't have to come from this part of his body, because, you know, remember, he did this thing while he was flying, so obviously he wasn't slamming his feet into anything. The male Muto was then dwarfed by the female Muto, who could apparently surround herself in what's called a sphere of influence, a bubble of EMP, I guess, which creates a perimeter around her. Now, I always wondered why these things needed EMPs when modern electronics have only existed for the past century or so, but it turns out that according to the novelization, the Muto evolved this ability to weaken Godzilla's atomic breath. We didn't really see any examples of this in the movie though, so, I'll take your word for it. Because, if they had used that ability on Godzilla, maybe that wouldn't have happened, I forgot to use the one ability that could save me, and now I've got a big giant lizard breathing atomic fucking fire down my throat. What's going on? Crazy days. Then in King of the Monsters, we see this Muto, which has been dubbed the Queen Muto because of the large dorsal spikes that look like a crown on her back. And this one is supposedly even bigger than the female Muto from Godzilla 2014. Once there are enough of these guys and they gain control of their environment, they quickly begin to breed and propagate, and soon as do Mutos propagate? And as soon as their society achieves a certain size, they begin shaping their entire ecosystems around their requirements. At this stage, resources will tend to become thin as the numbers of Mutos swell and grow, their food sources will dwindle, and the Mutos will inevitably turn on each other. And I don't know if that means that they're cannibalistic or not. It's never clarified. I really think that cannibalism has got a bad rap though, Oh shit, how'd you get out? I ate Dave's arm. Ignore him and he'll go away, ignore him and he'll go away, ignore him and he'll go away. Oh, is this again? You can't ignore me forever. Yes, I can. Sorry about that. That's the type of thing that happens around here. So basically, once the Muto society reaches a certain size, they all turn on each other and they all kill each other, and it's a bloodbath, and only the strongest survive. And out of those strongest, certain females, and only certain females, will take the next step on the developmental and evolutionary ladder and become Muto Prime. Now, it's not known what causes some Mutos to evolve and some not to evolve, but I, for one, would be pretty interested in finding out. My money would be on hormone. Like when you got home from school and your sister had a go at you for absolutely no reason. Hormone. Like Cousin Steve, who never quite felt comfortable in his own skin and decided to hormones. Like when that bodybuilder from round the corner... Oh, I better not say it. He'll beat my ass. He'll beat my ass. I'm not going to say it. Hormones! This gargantuan alpha of the superspecies is significantly larger than a regular female Muto and apparently 50% heavier than Godzilla. It has a hardened shell adorned with razor-sharp back spikes, kind of like the Queen Muto. If you look at this drawing here, it seems to be principally a quadruped, unlike the female Muto, which walks on 6 legs, but it can also use these smaller limbs, which it keeps all tucked up into its abdomen, to steady itself if the need arises. They have another smaller protruding limb which could be an elongated thumb, but is more likely to be another limb entirely that branches off from the main limb. I don't know, I'm no hand expert. I mean, who is? Is there such a thing?
Yes, I'm a hand expert. I love hands so much I've dedicated my entire life to hands.
We have to, of course, mention this orange coating that armors the back of its arms, covered in scales and spikes, and are colored this way because of her lava-like blood that superheats them. It's said that this guy will also dig these massive limbs into the ground to entrench itself and adopt an unshakable stance, almost anchoring itself to the ground, and therefore making it very difficult for it to be knocked over or flipped on its back. This thing burrows too, those large front limbs also dubbing as excavators. Dubbing's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Also doubling as excavators to shift large amounts of rock and earth so it can tunnel through the Earth's mantle. It creates seismic activity when it burrows, causing what's referred to as super shear earthquakes that rip through the Earth's crust and mantle at ferocious, near supersonic speeds and creates wide zones of utter devastation. On top of all of this, it's an adept swimmer too, and might even be able to breathe underwater. We don't know. But this is something that we never saw the Mutos do. As we see here, it stalks down a nuclear submarine before devouring its reactor core. So that's something I would love to see, an underwater fight between Godzilla and this guy, with neither having any need to resurface for air. Its most devastating attack, though, is this sonic screech that has evolved to resonate at the exact frequency to shatter Godzilla's dorsal plates. You think it's more of a or a because it's definitely not a This must have been hella painful for Big G, don't you think? But this, being an ability that's so specific to fighting Gojira, is the perfect example of the long-spanning rivalry between these two species that was clearly as ferocious as it was ancient. It's also said that it would deliberately create earthquakes to draw out members of the Gojira species and lure them into a fight they couldn't win. Another interesting question is just how long can this thing hibernate? Before resurfacing for the events of Aftershock, it was last seen in 1100 BC, where it defeated Dagon, before disappearing for reasons that just aren't known. So it can lie dormant for many, many years. And like many of the Titans, we just don't know what the lifespan of this thing is. We also don't know how many of them are out there. You would have thought that if there were more of them out there, they would have been awoken by Ghidora's alpha call, but it could be that there are more of these in Hollow Earth where they wouldn't have heard it. Now, when it comes to weaknesses, well, I've been looking for weaknesses for this guy, but haven't really found that many, with it only being beaten in Aftershock because Emma Russell modified the Orca device to emit a signal which made it think that its eggs had been successfully deposited, which distracted it for a few moments so Godzilla could lift it up onto his back and blast it with atomic energy. Before crushing its head, of course. I guess if it turns out that this thing can't breathe underwater and it's just holding its breath, that might be a weakness right there. That might be something that Godzilla could use to beat it. Using the same tactic as he did against Kong and just holding him underwater for as long as possible until it drowns does seem to lose the ability to blast EMP pulses like the male and female Muto, but I guess that's not even really a weakness. It's just one ability that it loses in return for gaining all the rest of the stuffs. So this guy is insanely powerful. Is it safe to say that it's just flat out, point blank, more powerful than Godzilla? Was Godzilla lucky to win this fight? Would Godzilla have beaten it had it not been for Emma Russell and her Orca device? I don't know. You let me know what you think about Muto Prime, but also about the Apple Plus series and what bad guy you would want to see in that. Something that we've seen previously from the Monsterverse, something from the Toho back catalogue. Perhaps you'd prefer to see something brand new. Let me know. Keep an eye on the channel for more Monsterverse stuff coming up very soon, as well as the usual random mecha kaiju random stuff. And until the next one, let me kindly invite you to get out of my head, and I will see you very soon for the next one. Thanks very much for watching, and cheerio, bye!